In their first game of the World Juniors, Team Canada faced off against Team Finland and got a huge statement win. But how much of a statement win is this for Team Canada? How much does it change their trajectory? And do we see them still win gold in the end in this tournament? Well, make sure you watch till the end as we go through all the highlights and break down every bit of this game. And make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey and World Juniors content just like this as we lead up to the gold medal game. Now, in Team Canada's first game of the World Juniors, they end up facing off against Finland, and this game was going to be a difficult one no matter what, especially with Canada's struggles in the pre-tournament game with injuries on the defense, and with Finland being a feisty team as ever, it wasn't a guaranteed win by any means. Then right before the game, we got the official lineups by Canada, and it was pretty different from, I guess, the expectations that we had coming into the tournament. You have players like Macklin, Celebrini on the fourth line, a first line of Minten, Geekie, Dumais, a second of Cowan, Poitras, and Savoie. Definitely interesting, but I think the forward lines definitely worked. And right before the tournament, you had a couple of major losses on the defense, with Tanner Molendyk and Tristan Luneau, two mainstays on that defense, being injured. They had to bring in Jorian Donovan and Danielson. And then starting in goal is Mathis Rousseau, who ended up having a humongous game here. There were some questions over who would actually be the goaltender in the end, but he was still able to separate himself, become the starter, and boy, was he great in the first game here. Early in the first, the Matthew Savoie line, that second line for Canada, already getting going, a great opportunity for him. But Kraken draft pick Nicholas Kakko in net for Finland had some great saves. This was one of the best. Canada's buzzing with 8 minutes in the first, an unreal opportunity with some speed by Matthew Poitras. But again, Kakko, unbelievable save, and he's able to keep Finland in it. And then with 4 minutes to go in the first, Canada has the save of the tournament. Matthias Rousseau, an absolutely beautiful glove grab on a great player here in Devils draft pick Leeni Hameenaho. He doesn't usually miss those opportunities, but Rousseau just a brilliant grab, and somehow it's still 0-0. I mean, in this first, it's just goalies dueling on each other, and it would take a little bit of grease for Canada to get the lead. Fortunately for them, they would get it. The Canadians end up cycling. They end up getting it back to Maveric Lamoureux, and it bounces off of Nate Danielson, who would later be named player of the game for Team Canada, deservedly so. But again, it's that grease, it's that grittiness, Danielson able to utilize it. This game was too close for Canada for a long time. Still just a 1-0 lead, 8 minutes into the second. An unreal stretch pass, able to find Dumais, and he just hits the post. So close. Owen, who was a surprise rosteree on this team, had that great stretch pass, and just a couple of minutes later in the second, Nate Danielson with some fantastic work along the wall, and then Allard is right there in front of the net to make it 2-0. The hype from him as well, just fantastic. Again, it was that grease, it was that grittiness along the wall. When they were playing their game, Canada was able to put up some massive results. Nate Danielson, really the catalyst of the game plan here for Canada. But Finland was still neck and neck in shots, still doing damage, and on the power play here, a couple minutes later after the 2-0 goal, they're able to get a strong deflection in front to get it a 1-goal game again. 2-1 Canada, you had this amazing play right here. Denton Mateychuk showing off the moves that he can pull off. Nate Danielson almost getting another point, another goal on the board. It was pretty hilarious too, going to the third period. Finland almost with an own goal here. That would have changed the entire game. For Finland, there were some more close calls here. 6 minutes through the third, you have a fantastic chance by Macklin Celebrini just off the crossbar. Celebrini would continue to go in the third. He would end up getting this 3-1 marker, going right into the crease to make it happen. It would actually end up being reviewed, but would be called a good goal in the end. And that would be a huge one, making it 3-1 Canada. That score would stay for a while, and as Finland has the empty net, Matthew Poitras, just barely staying on side, is able to make it 4-1 to give them some extra cushion. There would be a couple more goals. Finland would answer again with a great couple of passing plays, but not really much you can do there. Canada would once again regain their 3-goal lead here. Maveric Lamoureux from mid-ice, just an unreal shot to get it into the empty netter. But that would be all she wrote in this first game for both Canada and Finland. And honestly, I think for both teams, there were some big signs of improvement and some big things that I think they can take away from. For the players of the game, it would end up being Kasper Kuljanumi for Finland, and for Canada, it would end up being Nate Danielson, because of course it had to. For Finland, in my opinion, I think they should rest their heads high, even though, of course, the win didn't end up happening. For this Finnish team, this is exactly the type of game that you want to play all tournament. You want to be feisty, you want to keep these games close, you want to keep them low scoring, and Finland was able to do that for a good chunk of this game. I think it's also inflated this score because 2 of Canada's 5 goals were on an empty net as well, and that definitely affects things too. One of the goals, well, for Canada was a reviewed play that could have gone either way. So this game could have been a lot different in a lot of different ways, But I think for Finland, they were feisty, they were great. Their big stars were able to come up with big moments here too, and just were able to lose it in the end. But I think also just the game they were able to play, that was Finland to a T. And I think in a different universe, that game could have been a win for them too. Unfortunately for the Finns, Matthias Rousseau had a much different plan here, who came up to play, and I love seeing smaller goaltenders have success. 5'11", 172 pounds, just an absolute beast. And you can see how he's been able to do, how he's been able to perform, how he's been able to carry himself with the Halifax Mooseheads this year. A 934 save percentage, and coming into the tournament was likely going to be the guy. But you also consider the fact that he just turned 19 this year as well. This is not an older goaltender by any means. And of course, he comes into his first game, a 2 goals against average and a 923 save percentage. To me, those stats should have looked even better in this game because he was brilliant. Finland was able to match the shot output that Canada had for a good stretch of that game. But Rousseau was fantastic in the big moments. Obviously, the saves that we showed were good, but he made a lot of key smaller saves. And sure, there were a couple moments with some awkwardness, but at the same time, I think he has truly cemented himself as Canada's #1. And to me, that was probably the biggest question mark heading into the tournament. Was that goaltending going to hold up? Was it going to come in those big moments? And Rousseau is showing that it might happen in the end. Canada has had and kind of needed these type of performances in the past as well. You had last year's team with Thomas Milic coming up in a huge way, and you can see what he was able to do last year, a 932 save percentage. He was drafted this last year, so he was undrafted when the World Juniors came around, ultimately being selected by the Winnipeg Jets, and it's looking like a pretty solid draft pick as he looks pretty solid in the ECHL at 20 years old. That's great to see from him. But for Canada, this isn't new territory for him. Having an undrafted goaltender come in and having to be the #1 guy. But that was really always the question. Was it going to be good enough? And so far for Canada, it's looking pretty solid. Now, I would say with one question being answered, one new question pops up, and that is the defense. Heading in, we wasn't really sure what the defense would look like, and that was with Luneau and Molendyk. 2 guys, one of them being in the NHL this last year, and another being a first-rounder who has looked stupendous this year, being off that defense. And I would say in the first game, the first impression was kind of middling. They had a few interesting stretches where they looked solid defensively, but at the same time, they gave up a lot of chances to Finland. And I don't think Finland's offensive superstar power, even though they have a lot of feisty guys, should be allowing that many shots against. It's definitely become a bigger worry with those 2 injuries, and in the first game, it didn't really inspire a ton of confidence. You look in the defense, and to me, it's just a lot of guys that are around the same baseline level of play. Sure, I don't think Donovan and Nelson are a huge downgrade, but I would say it's definitely a downgrade from Luneau and Molendyk. Any injuries that happen is going to warrant that. But I also feel like they're just all at a decent level. Bonk, Warren, players like Jake Furlong, they're all good, they're all decent and can play their role, but they're not going to be especially amazing. And I think especially versus a team like Finland that just forechecks to heck, gives all the effort that they humanly can. This is a team that I think was kind of underestimated by Canada, and that underestimation almost bit them in the back. And I think the defense has a lot to learn, obviously because of the injuries. They have a lot to learn in a quick amount of time because of 2 guys being brought on in the end. But at the same time, they're going to need to adjust fast because it is a short tournament, and they cannot afford to have that type of defensive play versus teams like Sweden or the US. But I think there is hope that that defense can adjust, especially since I do think players like Donovan and Nelson can be solid guys. It's just a matter of how much are they able to adjust in a quick amount of time. But I also think they could show a little bit more as well. I mean, that first line has a lot of room to grow, but that second line, Cowan, Poitras, and Savoie was nasty. Poitras having a few amazing chances, same thing with Savoie as well. You have that third line, which was just able to grind down play in the best way they can. And I think, honestly, we could maybe see Macklin, Celebrini, Conor, Geekie switch in the future. I'm not sure if that'll actually end up happening, but Celebrini, I think, definitely deserves more minutes. He was not getting the opportunity he deserved. He had a few close calls, a few opportunities, and of course, ended up getting that 3-1 goal, which would end up being the game winner in the end. Get this kid more ice time. Come on, guys. Seriously, though, the ice time thing is pretty interesting because you got Macklin Celebrini here playing 13 minutes and 19 seconds, and you know, that's pretty standard, but you had a lot of guys as well on that second line playing a lot of minutes, which isn't to be totally unexpected. But of course, you got players like Conor, Geekie playing pretty good minutes, 17 minutes, Fraser, Minten. It's not really too much of a surprise, but I think Macklin Celebrini should be at that top end. It's not really surprising that Wood wasn't playing too much. Same thing with Rekov. But at the same time, I think Celebrini was able to show that he doesn't just deserve 13 minutes of time on ice. He deserves more than that, in the 15 range. I think he can handle it. And we've seen in the past how much he can handle it, being just a mainstay with Boston University, looking great in the tournament games. Give Celebrini more of an opportunity, y'all. It's deserved. I mean, it's not like he's not scoring. He got a goal in his first game as a 17-year-old. I think he'll be okay with it. But a very interesting game, and I think for Canada, it was quite a bit of a statement game, especially with the goaltending. That is the biggest thing, I think, for the Canadians that is going to inspire the most hope for them in the future. The fact that Rousseau can be at that level that can steal a game for them, which I think in this scenario was the case. And I think for Canada, being able to win a game like this still though, in the end, even though they got outplayed versus Finland at various points, to me, that is still a good thing. And it shows that when Canada adjusts to these defensive adds, when they adjust to this true lineup, they can be in a much better position. We'll see what happens, but with Canada, I think that next game versus Sweden is going to be a big one and is really going to show what this team is made of. Now, I think a lot of you might be confused. Yes, I am an American. I am cheering for US, but I wanted to touch on this game because it was really interesting to me, and I think it was one that could really show the rest of this tournament what the Canadians are made of. We'll see. I predicted them to get bronze and win the bronze medal, but you can never count them out. 2 straight back-to-back gold medals. We'll see if they can get that back-to-back this year. Let me know in the comments down below, what did you guys think of this first game between Finland and Canada? What did you guys think about it? Do you guys think that Finland could go on a run, Canada could go on a run, and what are your takeaways from both of these teams as well? Let us know down below. Of course, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell if you haven't already for more World Junior content just like this throughout the entire tournament. If you guys are enjoying, make sure you hit that like so we can produce more videos just like this, more breakdowns as well. And of course, make sure you share the video with all the hockey fans, all the Canadians, Finland's, Finnish folks, everybody that you can out there, and get the videos out to them. It is massively appreciated. And click on this card for all the World Junior content right on one playlist. My name is Nathan, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day, and goodbye.